Chummers, some of you have been asking me about Technomancers. Those weirdos who can connect to the Matrix using nothing more than the power of their mind. I don't really know the specifics of how it all works, at least nothing more than what anybody else would, but I can tell you plenty about what makes them special. Technomancers are a quasi-magical equivalent to Deckers. They are both capable of misusing the Matrix, though there's a few differences between them. Specifically, Technomancers don't need any special equipment because they are their equipment. They also have a special attribute called Resonance, which grants them access to a few abilities that Deckers don't have access to, and also don't cause an increase in Overwatch score for using. In addition, this also allows them to compile sprites, which have special abilities unavailable to even Technomancers, like some kind of special ability inception. One of the drawbacks to having Resonance, though, is that a Technomancer can't have the magic special attribute, which, oddly enough, an ordinary Decker can. So, as an aside, this means that a Decker can feasibly be a hacker that also slings spells in meat space, while a Technomancer's variety of magic lies strictly in cyberspace. I digress, though. The two primary strengths of Technomancers is that they are their cyber deck, and they also have access to a wide variety of special abilities. These abilities affect the Matrix, but don't draw attention from ordinary users. This means that Technomancers are suited for one of two roles, either being a team's primary hacker, or as a support for the primary hacker. Regardless of which you choose, there's a few things that are important for all Technomancers. First, you need at least rank C for magic so that you can even be a Technomancer. Picking a higher rating is a matter of preference, since it's possible to raise your resonance rating with special attribute points gained from prioritizing metatype. Second, you'll need decent attributes. The stats of your living persona, the equivalent of a cyber deck, are based on your character's attributes. Additionally, high attributes just make a character all around more capable. Lastly, resources is not a major concern. Besides maybe a decent set of armor, a weapon, and a few months lifestyle so you're not sleeping in the streets, you don't need much. Cyberware and cyberdecks are expensive, and as a Technomancer, you won't be needing either of those, since cyberware will make you lose resonance, and your living persona makes a cyberdeck redundant. This means there's no high-ticket items that you really need. Let's move on to some more specific considerations. First, if you're the team's main hacker. You'll definitely need high attributes, especially since this will affect your living persona, in addition to other things your character is capable of. Each of the device attributes, attack, sleaze, data processing, and firewall, correspond to one of your mental attributes, so you'll definitely want to emphasize those. Body is also an important consideration, since taking Matrix damage while you're in VR as a Technomancer correlates directly to taking physical damage. Willpower is also rather important, since it's used to resist fading. Skills should also be a relatively high priority, since most of the Matrix actions fall into one of two skill groups. As the main hacker, you can get away with having low resonance. Complex forms, for as helpful as they are, can be risky. If you do feel like playing around with complex forms and compiling though, having a high priority on skills gives you room to dabble in that. And you can always pick a higher metatype priority to gain the extra points of resonance you'll need if you want to grow into using complex forms. So to put it all together, this is the priorities I'd use if I were to make a Technomancer. Metatype D gives us the choice of being an elf or a human, with choosing human allowing us to start with a total of 6 resonance if we want. Attributes A gives us the ability to have a ridiculously high set of mental stats if we're willing to have a few physical dump stats. Magic C gives us 3 resonance, which we can bump up to 6 if we choose human as our metatype, since we get 3 special attribute points from that. Choosing metatype elf would give us a starting resonance of 3, which isn't necessarily bad since karma can be used to raise resonance. Skills B gives us a decent amount of skill points to work with. There's 6 skills that are important to hackers: cyber combat, electronic warfare, and hacking in the cracking group, along with computer, hardware, and software in the electronics group. The 5 points for skill groups can easily cover half of these decently enough, and the remaining 36 individual skill points gives you enough room to either match or max out the other 3 skills you'll need. And after those requisites are met, you can easily put your remaining few skill points into the other things you desire, like social skills and at least 1 weapon skill. Though if you really need to cut one of the 6 hacking skills, hardware is only used for the jack out matrix action. So if you're okay with potentially being trapped in the matrix, you can afford to cut a few points of this. The most expensive piece of equipment for a hacker is their deck, and maybe some cyberware. But as a Technomancer, you won't be needing either of those. So get a gun, a place to stay, a nice armored jacket, and you're good to go. As a Technomancer support, you're going to be relying more on complex forms to assist whoever is taking on the role of being the main hacker. You'll be tagging along with the team's primary hacker, leaving most of the heavy lifting to them, but making their lives easier by either buffing them with complex forms, or using those same complex forms to debuff their targets. This role is also somewhat narrower in scope, so you have more freedom to play around with other roles. Though I wouldn't recommend taking on this role unless the other roles the team needs will be covered. Talk it over with the rest of your group and the GM before making a Technomancer like this. Since you'll be relying on complex forms, a high resonance is important. This means you can use stronger complex forms while still only facing stun damage for fading. Additionally, this also means the only skill you're truly reliant on is software, which plays a key role in complex forms. Willpower should also be high as well, since having a high willpower will help resist fading. Let's put this all together. Here's what I'd prioritize for a support Technomancer. Being that I'm a very boring player, I've decided to go with being a mostly run-of-the-mill human, so I dump my E into meta type. And attributes of C is a little limiting, but by setting a few of my attributes to 2, I'll have plenty of room to max out willpower, along with raising logic some. Assigning my A to resonance gives me the highest resonance to start with, and plenty of complex forms, in addition to 2 of the resonance skills starting at a 5 rating. Handy for if we want to spawn more helpers for our primary hacker. Skills at B still gives us room to pull our own weight in other ways, with 36 skill points and 5 points for skill groups. Those 5 points for skill groups could go into, say, biotech, allowing my character to dabble in being a medic as well. And 6 of those points should definitely go into software, with a few perhaps going into electronic warfare as well to avoid being caught while we're in the Matrix. Resources D is mostly to support our character being a field medic, with copious amounts of medkits and equipment, as well as a good place to hide where we can drag our grievously wounded allies to. Plus all the other Shadowrun staples, like a really tricked out SMG, more ammo than we could ever need, and the oh-so-edgy armored trench coat. Black in color. All told, this would set our character up to be an all-around support type. Not necessarily meant for the front lines of the Matrix or a street fight, but handy to have in either situation. Technomancers lose the versatility of being able to improve their ability to hack through spending Nuyen, but in exchange they gain the unique abilities of complex forms and compiling sprites. The Puppeteer complex form in particular comes to mind, since this allows a Technomancer to force an icon to give them all the marks they need, all without risking Overwatch. Compiling sprites also grants Technomancers a degree of versatility, since they can simply compile a sprite that's able to perform a task that they need done if they can't do it themselves. However, the risk of fading does make things all the more challenging. The Errata reduces some of these risks, though. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, feel free to leave me a like. If you didn't find it helpful or don't agree with my advice, you're also welcome to discuss why in the comments below. Just be sure to keep it civil, chummers, and I'll see you all next time.